I'm Man Taek Yuen from University of Hong Kong Faculty of Education. You can see from my background that it is the Lok Yau Hall of the main building of Hong Kong U, and then hopefully sooner we will have a face-to-face meeting at Hong Kong U. I would like to bring the happiness and good health to all of you through a double bell sound. I would like to thank Professor Wong, who are our honorable speaker for this morning, and also thank Mandy, Virginia, and Sally, who helped to coordinate and then organize this workshop. And also grateful to everyone who come to this workshop early in the morning on Saturday morning, or afternoon or evening. We have people from different parts of the world, from Australia, Japan, other part of Asia and North America. Welcome everyone. And Professor Paul Wong has studied in Hong Kong near Kowloon side in Pui Ching Secondary School. So if there are alumni, then we can say hello to each other. And Professor Paul Wong is Professor Emeritus of Trent University, Adjunct Professor of Saybrook University. He is a Fellow of American Psychological Association, Canadian Psychological Society, and Canadian Psychological Association, and President of the International Network of Personal Meaning and Meaning Center Counseling Institute. Paul is a world-renowned existential positive psychology and a leader in meaning therapy, meaning research, and second wave positive psychology. Paul has been invited to give keynotes, webinars in all 7 continents. He has also provided consultations to universities and government agencies, such as the National Advisory Councils on Aging of Canada and the Biological Behavioral Science Panel of NIMH of the United States. In addition to numerous journal publication, he has 2 edit volumes of the Human Quest for Meaning, Theory, Research, and Applications, has become standard reference in meaning research and interventions. His most recent books are Inspirations for Difficult Times and Make for Resilience and Happiness. Professor Paul Wong will present on the topic Self-Transcendence, the Key to Meaning and Well-Being. Let's welcome Professor Wong.
Thank you, Dr. Yuan, for your introduction. I'm glad to have this opportunity to speak to all my old friends and in Hong Kong and elsewhere. I have followed the situation in Hong Kong very closely since I came to Canada. So I know that the students in Hong Kong have gone through a very, very tough time the last couple of years. I do hope that today's webinar may be of some help to you, okay? And you know, the pandemic has caused great damage to all sectors of the society, especially the education sector. So my message to you is that it is how you respond to the pandemic that determines your well-being. Okay? And here the latest study indicate that learners, we need to provide learners with the knowledge and mindset to cope with the existential threat and create a sustainable, peaceful future. So I hope that today you can acquire a different mindset to consider that today's problems and suffering may be the opportunity for a future, a better future. Okay? Now here, indicate the latest study from the Toronto Sick Kid Hospital indicate that the social isolation is the main contributor to mental emotional disorders. Now, this is very important because in order to keep us safe, unwittingly, it actually causes us mental illness. And so the question is that how do you balance physical safety with mental health? Now, here's a study from indicating that emotional well-being is the students' biggest challenge. Okay. So I suggest to you that the most important breakthrough in mental health is that suffering and problems might be good for your future growth, for your transformation. Okay. And here's a study showing that 3/4 of students are negatively impacted by online learning. And here's also a Lingnan Daiho also found the same thing, okay? And so here's the thing, you wonder, why is that students find it difficult to do online learning, okay? I think that it reveals one weakness in today's students, the lack of self-discipline and self-motivation. They depend on spoon feeding, depend on professors holding their hand. So here's opportunity for you to learn to grow up, how to study on your own without depending on the professor. Okay, now here we talk about what is the solution to today's problem in education. Yeah. There are very different approaches to the problem we have on hand. In the West, a very popular approach is Silliman's partial education. Okay, yeah. He believed that a small rise in satisfaction, can increase learning. Okay, so the main emphasis is on how to increase students' happiness. Okay, so you are happy, then you study well, you'll be successful. Okay. Happy teacher produce happy students. Okay. So no signal learning can occur if there isn't a good, happy relationship between the teacher and students. So we can change the future by changing curriculum, change the classroom culture to promote student happiness. Yeah. Now, what do you think? Do you think that work in Hong Kong? Well, look at this. So now more and more people recognize toxic positivity. Look at this poor teacher. You know, look at a student, poor student. So when students are unhappy, there might be many contributors. It might be because of family situation or parents fighting. It might be due to economic hardship. It might be due to their dissatisfaction with government policy. So there are many reasons why students are unhappy. So you cannot blame the poor teacher for not making them happy. So that poor teacher, you know, and she had to put on a happy face. That makes it more difficult. Yeah. So constant emphasis on positive emotion, on happiness, can be counterproductive. Okay, so I've been saying that for years. So as a result, I offended many people in parapsychology. Okay, but I still think that in times like this, it's very difficult for people to maintain positive emotion. To force yourself to be happy actually makes you more unhappy. Okay. Now here's a guy says that the problem often all problems are due to ego. Well, let's just define what ego is. Okay, you know what I mean. Okay? Ego is you want to be important, you want to have the last say, you want to be in control, you want to call the shot. Ego is self-destructive at all levels. Okay. Ego is the main killer of relationships. Just ask yourself, how often the conflict between people are related to ego? Even for yourself, how much unhappiness is due to your unrealistic, egotistic expectations that your own desire are not being met. So the parapsychology often feeding into the ego rather than deal with it. Okay? So my self-centeredness approach, take a different approach and trying to replace ego with selflessness. Now, here is two different models. Ceremony Perma is being implemented in many schools in the West, even in Australia. But Perma is only half the story. Why? Because you can't have positive emotion without addressing the negative reality of negative emotion. You can't have engagement to the point of getting into flow without spending years overcome your limitations, overcome your difficulties to the point that you're able to have the competency to enjoy the state of flow. So now here is in contrasting these two approach is more clearly. On one hand, you have positive emotion. But how can you have positive emotion? How can you have positive emotion? True positivity is through embracing the dark side of life. The light shines brightly only in the dark. In a sense, if there's no darkness, there's no light. No unhappiness, no sorrow, no happiness. So the two happiness and unhappiness are two sides of the same coin, and they are twins. Okay, engagement, same thing. You know, you play piano to the point that you get into the flow. But you cannot get to that state without years of painful discipline. Sometimes you feel like playing. As a professional, you have to stick with it. So no pain, no gain. If you did not go through the painful discipline, you never get to the stage of enjoying the flow of losing yourself in the beauty of the music. Yeah. Simply positive emotion, positive relationship. Is it possible for you to have positive relationship without learning how to forgive? Without learning how to endure the idiosyncrasy or foibles of other people? Now, Harvard's biggest longitudinal study shown that the relationship is the biggest contributor to anxiety and happiness. Okay, that's well known. Okay, but in order to maintain your relationship throughout your lifespan, do you know how much suffering you have gone through? Do you know how many times you had to cry at night by yourself? How many times you are to the point of about giving up? But because you are willing to commit yourself to your loved ones, willing to endure, love is long-suffering. Without long-suffering, without sacrifice, there won't be enduring part relationship. Similar with meaning. They all talk about, oh, you have meaning in life, give me meaning in life. But you can't have meaning in life without transcending your egotism, without transcending all the obstacles, all the limitations. We'll explain more later on. And finally, achievement, same thing. You can never achieve anything without delay of gratification, without sacrifice, without open failure. It's impossible. Talk to any accomplished scientist, talk to Dr. Yu to see whether he can become Professor Hong Kong Yu without transcending failure, setbacks. We all have gone through difficulties, including myself. I pride myself having experienced the most rejection, most failure because I'm older. So it's not possible to be achieved in any area without going through failure. Okay? Now, here's something very interesting. Parapsychology emphasizes eudaimonia. Okay, you all know that. Okay? In fact, they translate eudaimonia to flourishing. Okay, so here's an interesting point. You ask Aristotle, he will say the roots of education are not happiness. The roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is sweet. It's the difference. The process is painful. The fruit is received without the pruning, without the sowing tears, without suffering. You can't have happiness. So that's why I'm just surprised that the positive psychology people are missing the point. They keep talking about happiness, trying to bypass the suffering. That cannot be done.
Huh?
Now, for example, here I come to this guy and say, true good education is develop partial traits such as contentment, right conduct, moral value. So all those virtues, eudaimonia means excellence of virtue. If you excel in virtue, automatically you feel flourishing, you bear fruit. So without suffering, you know what it means to have empathy, compassion for those who suffer. The suffering is bitter, but without the bitterness in learning, in overcoming, you never have the fruit of eudaimonia. So the well-being of eudaimonia is based on excellence in what you do, in excellence in virtue. Okay, so they did not emphasize that part, which is sad. Okay. Now here's another my favorite writer, Dr. Scott Peck. The worst time may be the best of times. He's saying that our finest moments are most likely to occur when we are feeling deeply uncomfortable, unhappy, and unfulfilled. Think about that. Are you miserable? Are you suffering? Are you unhappy? That may be your best time. That might be the turning point in your life. Okay. Now, here's another quote from Scott Peck. Life is difficult. I go further. And life is constant battle. Life is a protracted warfare. Protracted. Not 1 year, 2 years, a lifelong. Are you ready? If you have the mindset of a warrior, then you'll be ready. You will still your spine, and your mindset, you'll be ready for whatever life may throw at you. Okay? So if you dismiss these truths, you tell young people, say, oh, life is good, life is sweet, life easy. The student already lost half the battle even before they enter the battlefield. So you give young people the unrealistic expectation that life is good, that if you study hard, got good grade, you'll get good job, you will happy marry, you have children, your happy life. You know what? I have many clients who have complete all that. They have graduated from top school, got good job, but they're still miserable. They come to me and say, why am I so miserable? Because all the distractions used to keep me happy and now take away from them. Because they're not prepared to face the reality of life. Not during the pandemic. They discover that their life is empty, that they don't have what it takes to face the horror of human existence. They don't have the stomach, they don't have the toughness to face all the bad things. So if you consider life is a battle, then you prepare a student, prepare yourself to do battle. Okay. Now, here comes my hero. I consider hero real. I mean, I consider his theory of self-transcendence is the biggest discovery in modern psychology. You know why? Because he restored the human soul to psychology and to education. Well-being and happiness is not just about cognition, emotion, behavior, knowledge, but there is a spiritual dimension. He's saying that without paying attention to the spiritual dimension, it's very difficult to face life, especially the horror of Nazi concentration camp. What is the characteristic of the human soul, of the spirit? The human soul is a healthy core that cannot get sick. Okay? You know why? I'll explain later. But basically, the human soul, the spirit, is changing from the horizontal dimension to the vertical dimension. At the horizontal dimension, people can get trapped into difficulties. You already care about a me. It's about material gains, about fame, about pleasure. So they're getting stuck at the horizontal level. They can't escape, there's no escape. They are the two-dimensional, they have a two-dimensional existence. By definition, it is a shallow existence. Okay? He's suggesting that you cannot be truly human until you take a quantum leap from here to this, the spiritual dimension. Okay? From here to here. Once you reorient yourself from the horizontal concern to the spiritual or meaning, concern with meaning, then you become truly human. By making this quantum jump, the quantum leap of faith, you'll be able to transcend all your human problems. I'll explain to you later on how that happens. Okay? So I have expanded Frankl theory in this book. So I think this book provides the best answer to the mental health crisis today. It's free, okay? During pandemic, everything's free. So help yourself with a copy, okay? I hope that some of you might want to translate it into Chinese, okay? And let me know you're interested, okay? Okay, now, I say that self-transcendence represents a paradigm change. Do you know why? Some of you might think I'm arrogant at that hour. You think you're changing paradigm. Who are you? Okay? But let me explain to you why. Okay? Now listen carefully, okay? First of all, everything in nature exists in polarity, right? So there's in everything in the world, okay? There's everything in polarity, okay? The good and evil, day and night, negative and positive charges, okay? Inhibition, excitation, over anything you mention is polarity, okay? Here's the difference. The old way uses a binary mindset. Binary mindset means either or. They're either good or bad. So the opposite poles exist in a single dimension. You got that? The old way of thinking. You're either good or bad. A good guy or bad guy. You're a good guy or bad guy, okay? There's nothing in between, okay? The two sides, you're either internal control or external control. You know, the rotors local control. Yes or no, right? Either internal or external. It cannot be in between. Right? You're positive or negative. Positive psychology only focus on positive. Clinical psychology only focus on negative. So there's nothing in between, okay? In your paradigm, you know why? Self-transcendence theory is a new paradigm. You know why? Because we consider polarity as two independent but interaction dimensions. Can you picture that? The polarity, as let me give you an example, okay? In the old days, we know that Chinese people are both high in internal control, but they're also high in external control. Because when they succeed, they say, because I work hard. Also, because I have a good teacher, or my parents care for me. So the Western people cannot handle that. How are Chinese people can be both high in internal control and external control? So what's the problem? I told Roger, I talked to Roger, I say, the solution is that internal, external control are two dimensions. So a person can be anywhere in a two-dimensional space, internal, external. He can be both high internal and high external. The same thing can be applied to emotion. Part emotion, that emotion are also two separate dimensions. That's why most of our human emotions are ambiguous, are mixed, right? The bittersweet of nostalgia. When I remember the past, as an old man, think about the past, think about my days in Hong Kong, I feel so sad, so far away, but also so sweet because all my friends in Hong Kong. You know, the Hong Kong people are really great people. They're so sincere, so honest. So my memory, my nostalgia are bittersweet. Or your relationship with your teacher can be a love-hate relationship. You hate a teacher being so strict, scolding you, or giving a low mark. But you're full of gratitude that you learn so much from him. So most emotions are ambiguous emotions. Okay? So the biggest change, biggest breakthrough in psychology, in education, is to change from either or to both and. Only great mind can hold two ideas at the same time, two opposing ideas. Only great heart can hold two emotions at the same time. You got that? So that is a paradigm change. Second, the second point is the psychology of the dissonance theory. You know, dissonance theory said that if we have conflicting thoughts, we feel uncomfortable, so we try to resolve the dissonance by changing our ideas about ourselves, by lying to ourselves. Okay. But a better way would be learning to tolerate the creative tension of bridging the two, transcending the two opposites. Rather than denial, rather than making excuses, lying to yourself, try to remove dissonance, I'm suggesting a better way. Acknowledging that you have this conflict, but you learn to rise above it. So that requires creative thinking and creative tension. So that demands more from you. That's how you grow. So that's the second point. The third point is you're more difficult. Now you know how to bridge the two opposite ideas. Okay, you vibe like this, you like this, so there's tension. Okay, you like one way, your spouse like another way, so there's tension. Your teacher believes in one idea, student believes in another idea, there's tension. So how to manage the creative tension? It requires wisdom, requires bigness of heart. You need to find enough space in your heart. You need to find enough flexibility in your thinking. Remove your dogmatic way of thinking. So you're able to achieve some balance and harmony. So right now, more and more people recognize that the Asian way is the right way. One way is the right way. I always emphasize mature happiness based on balance and peace. They dismiss it. But now more and more people say the one way is the right way. Okay. So happiness is not based on 开心快乐 excitement， 但平安和气peace harmony. That will be the main emphasis in happiness research. I think that eventually, this few years to be more research come out. Happiness based on 平安 和平 So these are three, you can see there's 3 main points that mark a big difference. Okay. Now this is Nietzsche, all smart guys say the same thing. Happiness and happiness are twins growing up together. So if you want to be happy, better get used to your unhappy twin. Okay, get used to your evil twin, and get to know your evil twin of unhappy and miserable. Okay, when you get used to your unhappiness, so I often tell my client, I hate exercise. Every day, when you are upset with yourself and happy, spend at least a few minutes a day getting comfortable, getting to know your evil twin. You can play a 2-chair game, okay? Talk to your evil twin. You get used to your evil twin so that you get used to him and then work together, okay? Now, here's another way to talk about that, okay? Now, I describe myself as existential parapsychology. Do you know why? Because self-transcendence is based on transcending existentialism and parapsychology, okay? And here's the idea, okay? Now, here's my friend, Yalom. Both are old man, okay? But a little younger, this picture, okay? But anyway, so Yalom is well known for his existential anxiety, death, freedom, isolation, and meaninglessness. Unfortunately, people tend to associate existentialism or existential psychology with the dark side of life. That people looking into his abyss with existential angst. That's the picture. Okay? But actually, you will read his book, reading more in depth. The great existential philosophers, Camus and Sartre. Okay, you discover that they also recognize that for every, there's this positive existential yearning, which I spell here. Okay, the yearning for a transcendental faith, the yearning for courage, existential courage, and the aspiration for connection, for love, and the desire for meaning. All those are universal. We all have that. Okay? So there are 2 sides of ultimate concern. the negative side and positive side. Okay. So if you look deeper into existential psychology, you lead into existential positive psychology. That's where I come from. Okay. Now, okay, the writing is a little bit too small. Okay, let me explain to you. Okay. We all have worldview. Okay. People may not articulate, but because of their experience, or because of their culture, their upbringing, they all form some idea about what the world's like or what life is about. Okay. And positive psychology trying to teach people that it's good to believe that the world is sweet, the world is safe, the world is just. We know from the just world research that you believe the world is just, you'll be very unhappy because the world is very unfair. We all know that. I don't need to tell you that. The world is not very safe. Anybody can die of COVID-19. Young people think they are immune. They are wrong. In Canada, recently, many of the people who got COVID-19 are young people. I don't know about Hong Kong. Nobody is safe from the virus. So tell people that the world is safe and just and good. You're misleading people, setting up wrong expectations about life. Okay. So basically, we all have worldview about 4 dimensions: the physical world, the social world, the psychological world, and the spiritual world. So from the existential psychology, we believe that the world is full of dangers and suffering, but also full of opportunities and overcoming. See, there's a balance there, right? Yes, life is hard, but life is also full of victory. Okay. The social world, okay. Oh, love is beautiful, love is sweet. But love is also full of pain. If you're not prepared to sacrifice, not prepared to endure the pain of withstanding, the pain of fights, the pain of separation, you cannot maintain a relationship. Some people expect marriage and happy after. I just recently watched a Korean drama called Happy End. It talk about, I don't know whether you have watched that. It talk about 12 couples. They all started with expectation of happy ever after, but they all end up in divorce because of selfishness, deception, unwillingness to forgive, unwillingness to accommodate, to compromise. So many marriages end up in divorce. During the pandemic, because people got cooped up in the same place, they more divorce. You not divorce, then miserable coexistence. They don't talk to each other, live their own separate lives. So if you want to have a more realistic expectation of a relationship, you need to work on the relationship. You need to find ways, find the virtue or the wisdom to overcome the differences in order to maintain a good relationship. Similarly, in the psychological world, often past psychology teaches positive thinking. growth mindset. If you think that you'll be good, think about your best self. You think about your best self, then you become your best self. That's nonsense. Only think about your best self, we just think about that you have to take care of your worst self. You can never be your best self by ignoring your evil twin. Your evil twin will trick you anytime. So you step out the world, how to overcome your weaknesses. You can see all the good things are on the other side of fear. All the bad things in life are on the other side of suffering. Because earlier, Aristotle, even excel, the best. Excel means being the best. You go to suffering, there's no other way. So, start out the world, you want to be your best. You want to know the most. You want to be all the good scientists. If you have a real passion for science, you suffer for it. Okay? Failure after failure, okay? Failure in getting grant, failure in the experiment don't work. The main problem to overcome. So it's like our world, you have to be mentally tough. Mentally tough. If you're not mentally tough, you cannot be your best. Okay? Finally, more important, you can ignore the soul, but the soul doesn't go away. Okay? If you refuse to recognize the existence of the spiritual dimension, refuse to recognize your soul, then all the things in this world cannot satisfy your spiritual hunger. Material things, the things money can buy, cannot fill the hole in your soul. Another danger, if you have no concept of soul, then without knowing, you will sell your soul to gain the world. You sell your soul to betray a friend. You sell your soul to lie. You will to get some advantage. So you will either live with a troubled conscience or live a wicked life, because you live a life worse than an animal, because you lost your soul. So therefore, existential psychology emphasizes the reality, both the realism and idealism in each of the four dimensions. Know yourself. 生死心法. You know yourself, no enemy, then you win 100 all the battles. Okay. So who are you? Know yourself. You gotta know yourself. Okay. Your true self is defined by your core value, your beliefs, more than your role and behavior. Okay. Your soul, I talked about earlier, has a spiritual aspiration, has a bright side. Your soul also has the shadow, the dark side, the sixth soul. William James called that the sixth soul, characterized by repressed, undesirable aspects of your soul, consists of all the anxieties and fears in grappling with the evils that suffer in this world. Okay? So your good and evil twins need to know each other. Okay? So there's a thing, so know yourself, you need to know the both sides of yourself. Okay. Now, this is a set of belief. There are warriors, you can do little tests yourself. Very adaptive beliefs. Here talk about the 12 rules about self-attendance. So I don't have time to talk about the whole thing, but just talk about the first two, this golden triangle and this iron triangle. Now, you notice that for each rule of self-attendance involves overcoming some existential concerns and difficulties. I'll explain to you very soon. So let's talk about the golden triangle. The golden triangle is your desire for connection, okay? The third connection, okay? The first connection is with other people, okay? When you connect with other people. But another connection is connecting with your own soul. Do you know your soul? One of my assignments for my client, internal dialogue, talk to your soul. Have you talked to your soul lately? Do you know your soul's aspiration? Do you know your future calling? Do you know what's your best self? It's a hope. So you will know your true self, you know your mission, you know your hope, then you know what agency means. Your agency means that your body, your hands, yourself is the agency to serve the purpose of the soul of creating a better future. See, all your capacities, all your knowledge are your instrumental and ethical agency. The other part is love. You love your other people by transcending conflicts, frustrations, misunderstanding. Love. You got to connect with. The lockdown and physical distancing, I really hurt many students. They should use this kind of time to reflect how to connect better with their family, how to connect better with their friends. And finally, connect with God or some transcendental being. 中国话，老天爷啊，祖先啊，我们的 ancestor or sky god， 老天爷啊，上苍。We'll have some kind of religious instinct in all culture. Or Buddha, 菩萨 faith, 信望爱. Wow. The soul gives you hope. The soul gives you faith. The soul gives you love. The golden triangle is the soul's aspiration. They help you to grow. Okay? Faith makes all things possible. Hope all things brighter. Love connect all together. So together, we can overcome pandemic. Together, right? The iron triangle is equally important. I mentioned courage and love. You know why? Courage and love are like two winds that can carry you through any obstacle. You cannot go through life without courage. You can go through life without love. All the knowledge about happiness will not do it. All the knowledge about science will not do it. You don't have no love, no courage. What the opposite of courage is being timid, being scared. The basic instinct, animal instinct, fight or flight. Fight means what? When bare your teeth, bare your claw. It takes courage to fight, right? Even animals cannot survive without courage. Even to the predator, the enemy may be stronger to protect their young, to protect, they still have to put up a fight. I've seen a little dog fighting with a tiger. So without courage, you're finished. You were like a turtle, always hiding in a shell. You take your head, then go scared, hiding. So the first thing to do, the first step, face the horror of life. Face it. The second step, accept it. The third step, transform it. Transform a painful experience into hero's triumph. Transform your tragedy into triumph. 3 steps. You practice these 3 steps. You're better able to cope with adversity. Sometimes, Phoenix, right? Phoenix, Firebird. All your adversity and trials are the fire that can transform your life. Okay? And Keller, Helen Keller. He said, character cannot develop in ease and quietness. Something can be only through the experience of trial and suffering can a soul be strengthened and success achieved. So this, all the great people say the same thing. I'm no great person, but I just learn from everybody that without suffering, you can never achieve anything. Now here are the pyramid of second laws. I have to finish pretty soon. Let me skip a little bit. Let me talk about the spiritual laws, okay? Now earlier, okay, let me explain to you, okay? Earlier I said you can have well-being at any time. You don't have to be happy in terms of feeling 开心快乐. But there are other kind of happiness, okay? Okay. Let me talk about the some kind of happiness. Happiness, some kind of, the first kind, okay? The first spiritual law is value life, love life. People will give away all the money to buy a couple more years of life. There isn't anything more valuable than life itself. Gold cannot buy life. Right? Now, think of that. People ask, I have a cancer, I'll see a cancer patient, terminal cancer. She will ask, what a window of life, I'm going to die. I said, you know what? You're being alive now. There is meaning of being alive now. Remember the myth of the Sisyphus. Sisyphus was condemned to roll a stone uphill, only to see it roll down again. Now, such an existence of futile hard labor, what is the meaning of life? At the end of the story, Camus did also say, Sisyphus must be happy. You know why? He was happy for being alive, for being have the strength to push the rock upstairs. He just roll over and play death. Oh, I don't want to live anymore. I love you have life. You have the joy of being alive, the aliveness. You're dead, that's the end of the story. As long as you are alive, that is meaning of just being alive. It's first our meaning, the most basic. The second set of meaning is to have the wisdom of understanding the predicaments of life. From my attribution research, even psychology, you know, that every person is a lay scientist. They want to find out what causes what. Everybody also a lay philosopher. They want to find out what happened to me, what life is all about. So the meaning also comes from the wisdom of understanding the predicaments of life. So that leads to existential well-being. Okay? The first one is the joy of being alive. The second source of well-being is existential well-being, that I understand something about existence. I feel good. The third kind of meaning and happiness is the joy, the ability to maintaining harmony with other people, maintaining harmony with yourself. A person is happy when he or she is at peace with himself, at peace with other people, at peace with God. Such a person is at peace with life. When you are at peace with life, like Lao Tzu and like water, it can be flow, it can be like water. You feel content, a sense of contentment. When you are at peace with yourself, with other people, with God, 天地人和. When you are at peace with everything, you feel joy and contentment. And the fourth point is remember the origin. Everything comes from somewhere. You remember your first punishment. They help you to remember how not to do the wrong thing and how to work hard. You remember your father's punishment. I remember my mother's punishment. I thank her for that. Remember the origin. Remember your first date. Remember your first kiss. Remember your first birthday. When you're mad with people, remember the first things of joy with a person. You were able to have sense of gratitude for all the small things in life. Even when marriage is in trouble, you can remember that when you first fell in love, what it was like. That will give a sense of gratitude. You're a student, when they are failing in school, remember the joy of getting accepted first time. The fact you got accepted is a feeling of gratitude. So psychology research has shown that gratitude is the most powerful contributor to well-being. That's why? But gratitude encompasses the ability to overcome bad stuff. You remember the origin, you forget, forgive all things in between. Okay? 饮水思源. Do you remember? Do you understand? 饮水思源. When you drink water, remember the origin, where it come from. Number 5. The meaning of the come from hope. When I was poor, when I was doing all kinds of terrible jobs, you know what kept me alive? When I was doing typing, when I cleaning the washroom for other people, doing all kinds of awful jobs. What kept me alive? It's my hope of a better future. As long as I can breathe, I have hope. As long as I have hope, I have joy. So therefore, you even can have tragic optimism. When bad things, horrible things happen to you, you can still see that I've gone through this horrible ordeal. I'll be a better person, a stronger person. Your hope of seeing yourself come out stronger and better, that will fill your soul with joy. And number 7, taking responsibility for your action. Taking responsibility for doing your best. You know what is important? That taking responsibility can turn failure into joy. You know why? I fail. But I feel good. You know why? I did my best. Yeah. I'll do better next time. But no shame on failure. I'll give them 100%. I feel good that I'm a failure. I'm a good failure. You know, I feel more than other people, but I'm proud of being a failure because I never give up. I got knocked down 7 times, I get up 8 times. So I learned I have done my best. I clear conscience. I feel proud even about my failure. But I leave my failure to other people what not to do. Every failure teach me something about what the right thing to do. Okay? And finally, the meaning comes from back to self-attendance, serving something secret, serving something greater than myself with a sense of awe. Now, I'm a retired professor. I'm over 80. I still working 10 hours a day. And why? Because my work is a secret mission. I approach it as doing something that gives me such joy, even though I'm tired. I have a long day's work, and now it's my time is 10:10. I have a long day's work. I start my day in the morning until now. I have a long day's work. I'm very tired. But I'm always full of joy because I'm glad to have a chance to talk to young people in Hong Kong. They how I care about them. Happiness comes from a sense of inner peace and containment with Dalai Lama. And here's my complicated chart. So you have courage, have wisdom, have a sense of purpose, you're able to balance yin yang, then you're able to have a sense of happiness. Okay. Finally, invite you to participate in my conference. Well, I ran out of gas. 没血了，没有力气了啊！这样的，就这样的，有问题随便问我，好吧 ？Any question, feel free to ask me. I still have some gas to answer your question. you can check the meaning.ca/conference. Okay? Meaning.ca is here. Meaning.ca/conference. You click that and give you all the information. Okay. I look forward to seeing you guys at the meeting conference. I also look forward to visiting you one day. I have spoken to all the universities, all the hospitals in Hong Kong. Know that many years ago. All the hospitals.
Yeah.
All except Hong Kong University of Technology, which is new, wasn't there. I've spoken to everywhere.
So if you have any questions that you would like to directly talk to Dr. Wong, yeah, there's a participant who has raised their hand. Maybe you just unmute yourself and speak.
I can mute myself.
Hi, Professor Wong. This is Jasmine here. So as I was listening to your presentation, and I heard some core beliefs like life is about suffering, etc. I think it resembles some core beliefs in Buddhism. I don't know whether that's the source of your maybe research of faith or etc. So I understand that your work is about meaning and spiritual, but what if a person don't have any religion? I mean, yeah. Does this model apply to them? What if an atheist or agnostic?
Okay. This is the most common question everywhere I speak, okay? Actually, people have no religion, they don't realize that they still believe in something greater than themselves. A secular spirituality is also a form of religion, okay? For example, they can have sense of awe towards nature. They can have sense of sacredness about cosmos. So it doesn't matter. Spirituality is an instinct, okay? 狗急跳墙，人急呼天. When desperation, you call I mean, even atheists will pray for a miracle. The miners got buried 3 miles down underground. What do you do? You won't hurt. You act as if there's a God. It doesn't matter what you're beautiful now. But people act. Even for the Christians, they talk, their language betray them. They often swear in God's name. That means they recognize there's God there, right? So I don't care whether you're atheist or what. There's no denial that if you pay a price by denying yourself an important source of internal resources. I mean, you have faith. William James talked about the variety of religious experience. Some people without religious faith, they can't cope with life. They'll be miserable for the rest of their life. So you'd rather be a sick soul and to be miserable in your life, or to want to try prayer. I just told my another client from China, I say, you're desperately trying to overcome this addiction. You fail over and over again. Here's the last resort. Try to pray to see whether God can deliver you. What happens to you? Try everything and fail. I try all the psychology techniques, all fail. So my last resort, I say this is my last resort. Try prayer. Okay? So for you to survive in this battle of life, faith is a strong resource. It's a powerful resource. Okay, next question.
Yeah, there are some 3 questions being raised in the chat box. How do we make feelings of existential crisis bearable? Yeah. And how can toxic positivity possibly create trauma in an individual? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let me try to answer the first 2 questions. Okay.
Oh, yeah, sure.
We all experience existential threat or existential crisis. Okay? If we accept it, say this is the part of life, it becomes more bearable. For example, in every stage of development, there's a developmental task that overcome. So that constitutes a crisis. Okay, and in the middle, when you're 30, you try to get established, get a job, get married. When you're 50, you try to review your life, say, have I lived well? So in every stage, a crisis. If you think about crisis, it's a good thing because it allows you to some issue that need to be resolved. There's something that needs to be dealt with. So you think that way, crisis serve a positive purpose, but that make it bearable. The second question of toxic positivity can create trauma. Because it can create trauma because you should force yourself to be happy, pretend to be happy, but you deep down you are unhappy. So that makes life very hard. Over many months, over many years, that can become complex trauma because like China water torture, day in, day out, you force yourself to be happy when you're not. That's why many commit suicide, because they try to make other people happy, but they are dying inside them because of pain and misery.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel healthy, you can share your sorrow, but you pretend, not only deny your sadness, but pretend you're happy. That takes an emotional toll on you. Day in, day out, eventually it becomes a traumatic experience. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, Dr. Wong. Maybe we would leave the last question, and then we will send it to Dr. Paul Wong, and hope that he would respond by email to the participants who have raised it. I recall that the question is about if there's one component that is missing in the model. So would it also lead to self-transcendence?
Okay. Transcendence is a process. Okay, so you can miss 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter.
I see.
It's a process. Okay. So if you have more, then it's better.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. So Dr. Lillian Wong is has.
Bye. I'm
Thanks
done now.
Very much, Dr. Paul Wong. Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
And it is wonderful that you could participate in this webinar. And I'm Lillian Wong, and I am Paul's better half. Anyways, and we've been married for over 50 years, and we grow together. And that's why somebody told us, just what is marriage? I say it's each for the other, and it's both for the Lord. And that's how we live together and we grow together. It's wonderful. And Mandy, thank you very much for allowing me to introduce a book that had been mentioned earlier. And this is the one that we have published 2 years ago, and it is Inspirations for Difficult Times. And those are the words of Paul and other people, and I am the editor for the book. And inside, there are 17 pictures that I took from my camera. And you could get it from Amazon. Amazon is Inspirations for Difficult Times by Paul Wong. And one of the pictures here, I wonder if you can see it. Guess what they are, who they are. Mandy, you know that one? And we were invited to speak in Taiwan many times. And this is the time that we share our platform with the top monks.
Okay.
And it was wonderful. And
Yeah.
here's another picture that I took it from, it was so beautiful, I couldn't resist. So it's just another picture. So it is an inspiration book. So if you like to, you could order it from Amazon. And if you have difficulties, always email me. Okay, my email is, well, Paul's got thousands of emails every day, and he's assistant, so sometimes screening through. If you want me to respond, my email is liliancjwong@gmail.com. Lilian is spelled with one L in the middle. It's LILIAN, C as in Carol, J as in Jennifer, WONG@gmail.com. And so if you have any questions you want Paul to answer, we'll be happy to. And it was just wonderful to meet all of, I really want to encourage you to join our nonprofit organization that Paul started 20 years ago. And it is International Network on Personal Meaning, which is INPM. And the easiest thing to do is to go to the website, www.meaning, MEANING, www.meaning.ca/conference. This will be our the 11th conference, because we have it every other year. This will be our first virtual conference. And we will invite you to join us and submit your paper. And also we will have scholarships for students. And please don't hesitate. Just go to the website. And in the website, you will be guided in papers that Paul had published and the books that we have written. And also there are lots of what's coming on. Okay?
Yeah.
And yeah. And Mandy, if there are questions, would you please just send to me and we'll deal with that.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for together. And this is wonderful. I enjoy that very much. God bless you and have a real good year, even under these conditions.